We often get asked what's on our minds about the future of the office. And one that really struck us that we're working on is this idea of the intentional office. This idea that if people are going to take the time to actually drive in, go to the office, what is it about that space that is worth the commute or worth the effort? And it creates a certain amount of intentionality. And so one example is a client who has a high percentage of remote work. One of the things the office can do is help build trust bonds. It's one of the things everybody talks about, like, hey, I love working remote, I love the flexibility of it, but I do kind of miss this ability to just cut to the chase on certain hard conversations because maybe I've never met the person. And so what can the office do to be intentional about that? So when people do come in, how do we foster those trust bonds to happen?
So how do you see this coming forward, and where do you think it will go?
First thing is we're kind of working with our clients to figure out what are the things the office can do that are intentional. On one end, you have this idea of the office being social. How does it help with social? How does it help with collaboration? Pretty obvious. Related to those is innovation. A lot of people think the office is, how do I get ideas to buzz against each other to innovate? But some people come to the office for focus, intentionality.
Right, yes.
And we tend not to talk about that because the other three are very kind of hot topics, how do I collaborate, socialize, innovate? But focus is equally as important. And then related to that, a surprise for us was mentorship. This idea that there's a generation who was impacted by COVID who wants to have a chance to be mentored. Well, if you think some of these are at odds in the office, like, okay, I'm coming in and I want to be mentored. How is that happening? Are we allowing and encouraging that to happen? Or are we still putting people in offices very far away from each other? Or is there social boundaries?
I love that. There was actually this New York Times article about 6 months ago, and it focused on a company in Silicon Valley through the voice of a couple junior folks in the office who really appreciated that they were back in the office 5 days a week and were able to get mentored by the more senior folks. And they feel like they actually were able to elevate their profession more than some of their friends who didn't go into the office.
Yeah. This will be this thing we see play out is, do people's careers or their learning change over time by access and accessibility?
Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of people that are very comfortable with remote working and can feel that they can create these trust bonds and social networks in other ways. Mm-hmm. And there's truth in that. But again, diversity of learning styles, diversity of how you learn, or you socialize or you mentor. We're trying to figure out how the intentionality of that office kind of brings that together in different ways.